psychologically, spiritually bankrupt globalists at the top that are eugenicists, so they have a hatred of humankind. And then you've got all their mercenaries and minions and corporate frauds and liars who are removed from the actual death, suffering, disease, and wickedness, and who live in denial and have decided that they are God's gift for the planet. Most of these mid-level minions actually think they're doing a great job. You're not doing a great job. And the world sees through Baghdad Bob, Kim Jong-un, Jay Carney, Barack Obama, and John Boehner. When John Boehner says we'll change some of Obamacare to make it better, you cannot put perfume on a dead, rotting pig. You cannot polish a you-know-what. There is no use for any of this but to get rid of all of it. And to realize healthcare is screwed up because of the corporate interest that wrote Obamacare have already gotten government involved the last 50 years and ruined the best healthcare system in the world. If you don't like the way things are going, you don't get deeper down the same direction and think it's going to change. That's the definition of mental illness. And I know you know that, but they're sitting there with a straight face going, Congress has a 6% approval rating, but it's extremist and dangerous to not like the government. 80% or more don't like Obamacare, and the numbers are growing every day, but you are a kook and a racist and a bigot and a conspiracy theorist and a nutball because you don't like it. This Benghazi memo has nothing to do with Benghazi. It's a conspiracy theory. And even the mainline corporate whore media is going, excuse me? Even CNN's going, excuse me?
Like, this is a conspiracy and theory and virtue of a conspiracy.
The conservative group comes in and says, we want Benghazi documents. The administration says, this is not a Benghazi document, so we're not turning it over, right?
Again, I don't, like, this is a State Department FOIA request.
I mean, that is really a hard deal to put up with and face. But if you go back to Bill Clinton memo in the early 90s that the Western Journalism Center got, that's public from the library, admitted that we spent 3 shows on the last 2 weeks, is it so important? It says, when they counter us on cattle futures, when they counter us on Vince Foster, when they counter us on sex scandals, when anybody breaks any of this, whether it's a mainstream news article or a new media article, we call it a conspiracy theory and say they're trying to make money. Well, of course we're trying to make money, just like any other media operation. We are in the type of media we're in because it's our passion and we believe in the Second Amendment, family values, property rights, national sovereignty, a court system that isn't corrupt, a police force that isn't corrupt, a military that isn't part of an empire, and then we need to make money to then build our media organization, pay our journalists, pay our reporters, pay our camera crews, pay our researchers, pay our accountants, pay our lawyers, pay our secretaries. And then, yeah, of course, we like driving a car that doesn't break down. Of course we like taking the kids on a vacation and buying the missus some nice dresses. But that isn't our God. If that was our God, we would have sold out to you to be paid 10 times more. But they try to make it about they can make money, they can have media organizations, they can have Air Force One and red carpets and $2 million a night in hotels for Mrs. Obama or Mrs. Clinton. But oh my gosh, heaven forbid that there be any libertarian or conservative groups that are tax exempt promoting pro-life or something. We've got to shut that down. Why, you just can't have anything. Heaven forbid that Africans ever have air conditioning or a car. Obama told them that's bad. You got to stay poor slaves, not industrialized, and walk around in bare feet mining diamonds for De Beers and Oppenheimers, where they literally each person brings out hundreds of carats a day sometimes and then gets nothing and lives in an open tent almost starving to death with guys with machine guns over them so that men can go use a year's salary to buy their girlfriend a 4-carat diamond ring or she'll throw a fit if he doesn't. All the diamonds are blood diamonds. All the diamonds are evil diamonds. Do I need to play a clip of Obama saying Africans can't have air conditioning or a car? That's what they're teaching all the trendies in Austin. You're going to live in a 200-square-foot thing with your family, and then those of us that run the scam, we're going to live in big mansions in the countryside, and we're going to be exempt because our mansions are an environmental easement that the former mayor, now a state senator, grabbed and owns himself and runs through a bank. His name's Kirk Watson. And the same scams run everywhere. These people have 10, 15, 20-bedroom houses, huge rivers, huge lakes, skeet shooting, zip lines, 5,000 yards line over cliffs, just helicopter pads. And it's all rancher property they took. And then they sit on it in environmental easements, tax exempt and don't pay property tax. That's just the local fake enviro crooks. The Rockefellers, look it up. The first national park, the first two national parks on the East Coast, there's PBS documentary about it, were their ancestral homes and 10, 20,000 acre homesteads. I'm talking thousands of acres like golf courses, folks. You think the French have big gardens, the French emperors, the French kings had those big gardens that were all manicured? The Rockefellers, I saw it on television, have one that went on for thousands of acres with all these sculptures, and it was the first national park, but it's private for them, and it's all tax exempt. The helicopters, the palaces, they all control it. It's theirs. Yeah, they just pulled up the Rockefeller National Parks, and then there's little corridors where the citizens can drive that are fenced off, and then you can see some of it. All tax exempt, everything. Warren Buffett, tax exempt, all of them, tax exempt. I remember growing up in Dallas, my dad knew a lot of rich people, really rich people. And that was all the big joke. I mean, there's a lot of famous quotes. There was some famous billionaire woman, I remember, in the 80s, and she said, taxes? Rich people don't pay taxes, because that's the big joke. Growing up, my dad would explain that the little guy and the nouveau riche, that's French for new rich, they pay the taxes. A guy making $10 million a year that employs 5,000 people, he pays taxes. She pays taxes. When you get into the elite club, you don't pay taxes anymore. How big of a hoax is that? You get your sports stadiums paid for. I've already been on this rant all week. I apologize. We're going to go to your phone calls. Yeah, that was Leona Helmsley. Great job, guys, finding it. That's right. She says, we don't pay taxes. Only little people pay taxes. She was 19, 2007, was an American businesswoman. She was known for her flamboyant personality and had a reputation for tyrannical behavior that earned her the nickname the Queen of Mean. She was promoted by Bieber Silverman Group and its co-owner, Joyce Bieber, who persuaded her to call herself Queen of the Palace Hotel. Following allegations by unpaid contractors that work done on her home had been charged to her company, she was investigated and convicted of federal income tax evasion and other crimes. She was low level. Although having initially received a sentence of 16 years, Helmsley was required to only serve 19 months in prison and 2 months under house arrest. During the trial, a former housekeeper testified that she had heard Helmsley say, we don't pay taxes, only little people pay taxes, and saying that became notorious and was identified with her for the rest of her life. That was her because she worked for rich people. She was just nouveau riche, but worked for the elite, kind of like worked for a Madoff-type group. That was her shooting her mouth off. But they burned her because she was such a big mouth. The entire ruling Socialist Party, this came out last year, in France, pays zero taxes federally. The EU bureaucrats passed a law a decade ago. They pay zero taxes federally in the EU tax. Everybody else does. And when they found all their Swiss bank accounts, because they were taking everybody else's Swiss bank accounts that was after-tax money, there was a big scandal and no one got in trouble. They raised a 101% tax. Look it up. Just type in, France has 101% tax on people making over €1 million a year. That sounds like a lot, folks, but when you pay taxes and make, say, $1 million, that's about $1 million, you pay in France 78% federal. You had everything else in it. French making €1 million a year literally can't even live in a nice house. Taxes on some wealthy French top 100% of income. Reuters. Actually, it was over that. If you look at Forbes, they did the analysis, it was 101%. Of course, they were exempt. They were exempt. And they're exempt from all of it. If you're part of one of the inside parties, you just get left alone. And then you get big government checks from the middle class, and you get to live in a house for free and then get welfare money or a government job and get to go around bossing everybody around. And so the French middle class is stopping working. I know people that live in France, Brits and Americans, and they say the French more and more will not work.